we have another game for viewer game analysis, and we've got an interesting one here. And we've got another game in 25, 5-second delay, USCF rated tournament game. White is 1800 and black is 1700. And hold on to your butts, because this one is going to have some tactics and some interest and a little bit of opening surprises too. So let's go ahead and dive right in as we get a slob that I was first aware of this position. It was definitely before the Anad Kramnik match where Anad really smacked this around because Kramnik used it as his main weapon, and you haven't really seen it at the top level since then. Well, when somebody loses with something in a world championship, people take notice. Before that, there was a book by International Master Lakdawala. I think it's in the Move by Move series, the Slav Move by Move. And this is the Dutch variation of the Slav. And I cannot remember off the top of my head what E4 is called. Definitely somebody in the comments can help us out there. And it's a gambit line where, from a correspondence perspective, black is just better. But it's definitely complicated for over-the-board play, and for game in 25, definitely a reasonable move. I prefer A4, and after bishop F5, E3, just trying to get our pawn back. And it's got the flavor of multiple openings, and if you enjoy playing, say, Queen's Gambit accepted for white, you'll be right at home in this type of position. Bishop B4, castle, castle, and there are a number of different moves here, from Queen E2, Queen B3, but my personal preference is Knight H4, as I feel it's a little bit more nettlesome, and it's trying to coax an issue out of the structure for black immediately, like a bishop G6, knight takes G6. And as we discussed in a previous viewer game analysis video, that is a deficient pawn structure for black, and we can see the potential of long-term kingside attacks if this type of pawn structure occurs. So let's get back to the main game, E4. And after B5, I'm like, okay, this is going to get interesting really quick, because I had studied this, and it's supposed to be A4. We take, it forces him to take, so he can't take back on B5 with a knight. And then knight G5, bishop B7, because you got to watch out for queen F3 with the yellow arrow. Okay, bishop B7, queen H5, and you can see how white's attack just kind of runs out of steam, and A5, and in the long term, black is looking to survive to be able to get a passer going, and it's typically telling. So I think this line is kind of out of fashion, but it's interesting nonetheless. In the main game, bishop E2 is played, and in my mind, black should have an edge right now. E6, bishop G5, and when both players are out of their element or in a novel position, and this is clearly a novel position, you have to think on your own. And this is where you need to understand, like I get this comment sometimes in tournaments, well, why did the master play garbage against me? Like when I'm playing against a player under 2,000, I feel like I can pretty much play any opening that has a name and get away with it. And well, why? Why would you purposefully not play your best? Okay, say for instance, most American tournaments, you have 4 games in a day, you knock it out in one sitting. Well, if there's only one other strong player there, and I know I'm going to play them in round 4, I'm more than likely going to have the same color against them if I'm playing them in round 3 or 4, we'll say, and they happen to play the exact same thing that you play. Well, I'm not going to show the preparation I have for that strong player against someone that I don't need to show preparation for in order to defeat. I can just pretty much just play. And I prefer getting some kind of weird or interesting position against lower rated players from a technique standpoint because I know I'm stronger and I'm going to be more consistent and have a higher level of play. This applies in the entire totem pole of chess. The stronger the master, the more novel they want the position to be when playing against a low-rated player. They want imbalances. They don't want you in theory, so they have room to outplay you and outclass you. So we see this type of idea and move here where the queen is hit. To Black's credit, he doesn't want to play bishop e7, which would trade off his good, aggressive attacking bishop. You don't want to do that in these structures. And Black is in a lock structure with his extra pawn, and for his pawn, he's behind in development. So queen a5 was played in the game, but I feel that this misplaces the queen immediately because White goes, all right, bishop d2, now you got to move again. What I would have preferred to have seen is queen b6. Let's keep the bishop on g5 silly because it's a bit useless. So we'll go h6, and now a5. And you can already see the minor difference. These key moments make a difference in classes and strengths with players. So trying to really hone in on why mistakes happen is part of always getting to the next level. And technique is something that we can always improve upon. Even the best players in the world can improve on their technique and how they perceive certain situations. But queen a5, I found that was an interesting moment. Bishop d2, queen b6. And now knight takes c3. Not my favorite move, but it's not a bad move. It's understandable. But why capture? I guess knight e4 could be played. Scratch my logic there. I explained myself out of it. Knight takes c3, gets rid of knight e4, so I like it. And this next move, though, h6, this is I'm playing in a fast tournament, and I can't come up with something too quickly here, and I'm just going to play a move. Always go with development over moves like h6. You got 3 minor pieces that aren't working, and the king's still stuck in the center. h6 is a no-go in my mind. We need to play knight d7, and after a move like a4, bishop b7. And sure, if you want to bring the action, you want to do something over here, you just unleash my bishop, and now we've got a great position that's easy to play with a clear plan with a5 and b4. So quickly the tides can turn based off of proper development. h6, I think, is a waste of time in the position. Now a4, bishop e7, and now on the flip side of the coin, I have been somewhat critical of Black's move so far. Let's be critical of White's next move. So White goes, all right, queen c1. If you castle, I'm more than likely going to sacrifice on h6. Well, much stronger is queen b1. And you go, well, why is this stronger? Well, a natural move like castles, both moves prevent castles, but this one is more subtle. Because after takes, we have the strong bishop takes c4, as b takes c4 leads to the loss of the rook, and with it, the game. So queen b1, much stronger in this position. We're always looking to place pressure on our opponent's position while keeping tactical themes in mind. But queen c1, nonetheless. a6. And here, this next move is the one that cost White the game. So far, Black has not fully capitalized on the opening that White played. And there's been some odd moves, queen a5, h6, etc., that's kept White in the game. This move a5, tempoing the queen, the engine eval just, I mean, it basically goes ballistic and has an aneurysm here. It goes from, yeah, White's got, quarter of a pawn, couple tenths of a pawn edge. You're doing fine because Black's still cramped. He can't do much. Yeah, he's got a pawn, but what's a pawn when you can't develop or fight? This is now Black's 2 points in the green. Much stronger. Bishop e3. with the idea of knight d2, and watch the flexibility of the attack here. Knight e4, eyeing all of these critical squares. That is a true octopus knight. And then f4 with the idea of f5 to break open the position. And how quickly does this position change? Where we've got all these awkwardly placed pieces to huge attack, excellent compensation for a pawn. This is what you're playing for, these types of aggressive ideas, if you're playing these systems for white. a5, on the other hand, it's just what the doctor ordered. Now, there's nothing for black to worry about, and he can very easily and cleanly complete development. And I feel like this area of the game, white was struggling to come up with a constructive plan. h3, knight h2. Now, c5 is a natural break. And once the break has been accomplished, black gets firmly in the driver's seat. Now we're just collecting. And I like queen f5 a bit better because our queen is going to be far better lined up with the king here. But queen c8 was played. It's like, all right, safety first. Finally, castles. And trying to trade down in tricky ways here. Maybe queen g5. But knight takes h6. And I don't know the time situation. There's no timestamps or anything on these games. But maybe this is a strategic sacrifice based off the fact that black may have been in tremendous time pressure. You never know with these situations, but objectively, this sacrifice should not be good after takes. This is a critical moment in defense. So let me give you black's perspective for a moment here. If you're a pause your video type of guy, go ahead and take a pause here and figure out what is the most efficient way to stop the attack. All right, hopefully you thought about the position and paused. f5. It is controlling more squares, and we have the idea if rook d4, queen f6, and black has no trouble here. We can follow up with knight c6 and get the other rook to d8. Nothing doing. The game's going to be over quite quickly. Now, in the main game, though, f6 is played. And this is going to give white a few more opportunities. Rook d4, rook f7. Notice how, compared to f5, we have the immediate threat of trading queens on move 2. That's a big improvement, putting some pressure on the opponent. Rook e1. And now the turn of the tide. It is at this moment that black's position begins to unravel with this next move. I feel like we've got to get our last piece into the game. Black just never completed development, and it seriously cost it. So knight c6, if rook d7, for instance, maybe he was worried about this line, where it looks like you're just losing a bishop, but keep in mind, we've just got a protected pass pawn forever here, and with just the bishop and rook, nothing doing. I mean, if I sit my king on h8, I don't have to worry about the pass pawn. You've got to worry about mine. I would definitely take black 100% of the time here. So bishop d5. Here, white, because he's down, should go for the bailout, which is rook h4. Check. And we have a perpetual there. And that'll come up again. Bishop f3, still trying to win. Respect. Here, queen f4 is a bit more flexible with this idea. And this is a roughly equal position because the pawns are on the same color as the bishop on the queen side, and the black king is so open that white definitely has good practical chances here. The engine likes the material enough to give equality, but I would take white in a practical game at this point. Rook h7. Rook g4 check was played in the game. And this is one of the most interesting tactical moments in the game. Which piece should we take with on d5? And this is another pause your video moment to try to find some deep calculation here. All right, hopefully you took time and paused the video and tried to do some work. In the main game, bishop takes d5 was played, but actually rook takes d5 is even stronger, because after rook takes, rook h5 will give that one an exclam for the beautiful in-between move. Queen e3, another in-between move, allowing the rook to live because the check is so strong, and we just get black in a situation where he can only give away material here as things completely fall apart, and rook h8, tremendous threat, really hard to parry. Everything just comes together beautifully. Definitely hard to see those types of ideas in a rapid game, so understandable. Bishop takes d5 was played, and here back to rook h4, still the idea, but rook d to d4 was played, f5, and now huge turn of events. Check, big threats everywhere, sacks the rook, but too little too late. Checkmate. Very, very interesting game. Have to congratulate both players because it's a great game of chess when there's a lot of interest and it can be topsy-turvy like this. And definitely take into account, because it's sometimes I'll have a player, when I analyze one of their games, they get upset and they think it's a reflection on them when a mistake is made and I'm doing analysis. No, it's a reflection on trying to get better and understanding why the mistake happened. Mistakes are temporary. Don't assign mistakes to yourself. Part of the learning process and growth process in chess is openly addressing your mistakes, understanding why they happen. So if you're getting upset, and I've often seen people get so upset after a game, they crumple up the score sheet. And I too have been victim of that. I had one game that I was so upset with losing that I threw it away because I knew I would never want to look at that type of game. That's only happened to me once, and I regret doing that. I didn't do it in front of my opponent, of course, because I feel that that's bad form and disrespectful. But yeah, we always need to focus on learning from mistakes. So please don't take any criticism when I'm doing game analysis, because I can assure you, my trainers, as well as how I am with myself, I am so much more vicious with my critique, and I'm focusing on the mistakes, not you as a person. But I say this not for this game in particular, but for all of my game analysis games, because I have had people get upset with me in the past, but I don't mean offense. So hopefully you're enjoying the series, and if you enjoyed this game and some of the stuff we've done so far, well, we can look right above here, and oh, there we go, without my hand disappearing, where you can find my information. If you'd like to send a game in for me to analyze, I appreciate having stuff to go over, especially when I'm getting great games like these from this set, where all of them are from a tournament with game in 25 with a 5 delay. Definitely those types of time controls are going to produce interesting games. The faster the time control, the more errors you're going to see. That's with any strength of players. But if you're enjoying the series, smash that like button. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Definitely helps grow the channel. It supports not just me, but all of our presenters for Palm Beach Chess, as we work hard to present content to you guys on a regular basis, and we appreciate every little bit of support. And if it's free, we definitely ask with respect. Thanks.